Hello everybody, this is Ryan over at Bearded Tree Hugger. I started this video, then potential spam called, and it erased everything that I had already done. So let's try this again. Um, I finally made a long requested video of mine. Well, I've only been doing this for 2 or 3 weeks, so long requested is kind of an overstatement. But I did the video. I did a before and after. It's really not a before and after traditionally because it's a roller coaster, and I'm kind of at the maybe midway down. I would imagine. I don't know how long this is gonna take. I fingers killing me. I accidentally burned it making potatoes the other day. So anyway, I made this video. This is a very painful video for me to watch because the roller coaster that I have gone on is ridiculous. It is very, very, very easy for me to put weight on. Very easy. And it comes off kind of quick, but everybody wants it to come off quicker. Now, I will say that back when I was fruitarian, it was coming off really quick. In my mind, I thought it was coming off too quick, so I did start adding avocado, and I was making like a cashew ranch for my salads at night because I really, 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 I don't have it, and I've always avoided it. I don't want that loose skin. It looks terrible. People gotta like put it in their clothes, like fold it in their clothes. I just don't want it. So when I saw the weight was just dropping off, I would start adding a little bit of fat in there just so it didn't come off too quick. Now, in your mind and in your body feel, it feels like it's coming off too quick. When you see pictures of it, it's like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I found as many photographs as I could. I mean, most people usually just do a side by side. I want to be as transparent as humanly possible. I have been on an absolute roller coaster, and it's generally been around how much my foot is hurting, and how ridiculous my work schedule was. Now I work for myself now. I resell on the internet, so I can kind of control my destiny here. I mean, but I technically still have a post office job, but they won't work with me as far as restrictions. So I've been having to make my own living for about 3 years now. You know, it is what it is. They are ridiculous. They're struggling to find people to work at the post office, and yet they still won't work with my restrictions. It's nuts. So I'm not bending. They're not going to starve me out. I'll make my own money. But anyway, they have been a huge cause of some of the weight that I've gained because the job is beyond stressful. I've never worked at a job where people hate you before they even walk in because the news has built up how terrible the post office is, or word of mouth. Meanwhile, like 97% of all mail that's mailed gets to the destination it's meant to get to. 3% isn't that bad, but somehow we get nailed for 3%. It's ridiculous. So the job is stressful. People can't stand you for no reason coming in there. They've never even met you. And on top of the fact that when I was in the beginning stages, if anybody's worked at the post office in the last 10 years, I was a PSE. I was not a PSE for very long. It was like 6 months. Most people are stuck in that PSE position for like 2 or 3 years. I was a worker. They knew I was a worker. They were like, we got to get this guy at least PTF as fast as possible. I was regular within a year and a half, which is these days almost unheard of. So I've been regular most of the time I've been at the post office. So, and if you don't know anything about the post, I'm not going to explain the post office. If you don't know what that means, it really doesn't matter. If you do know what the post office, then you'll know what that means, and you'll be like, wow, that's kind of fast. All right. Not the point of the video. So I'm going to go through this. I got the little slideshow on my computer here. I film on my phone. I'm just gonna have the slides over. You're not gonna see me while I'm doing this. I don't know how long this is gonna take. But I think will be somewhat encouraging to people because I think a lot of us go through this, and it's just comforting to know that you're not the only one. I don't know. It doesn't help you lose weight any faster, but it is nice to know that you're not the only one that's struggling with this nonsense. You know, I will have to say that the job and my foot have created a lot of issues. Even currently, I really can't ride. And you'll see in the slides that when I started riding is when the weight was like catapulting off me. I mean, it was just, and I don't have that many images of it, unfortunately, because I am a photographer. So I'm used to being behind the camera. It's taken me 10 years to get used to, like, to finally say, look, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. This has been my career since I was 20, getting weight off this frame of mine. And I want to help others not have to do. I'm 41. I have 21 years of this nonsense. This could have been done in 2 years. I could have like moved on, helped other people with this. I've always wanted to help other people. I was a trainer at one point, and my slogan was like, if you're looking to lose your ass, go to somebody else, because I wanted to train people to be strong, flexible, and like have as much power as possible. Now, I did have a lot of women clients. I'm like, look, if you want to lose weight, go find somebody else. If you're here to lift as much as that body of yours can lift, we can do it. And that's a lot of the people who I had. So I really wasn't going to take, I'm just not going to take somebody who's wanted to lose weight in the gym. On this YouTube, this is what I want to do. If you want me to train you in the gym, it's not going to be for weight loss. It's going to be for maximum amount of power that your body can produce. So, with that being said, I think I'm actually going to turn this light off. That way, when I come back after the slideshow, it's got enough carbohydrates to actually function. So I'm going to turn this off now. I'm going to transition over into the slides. You will only see the slides, not the side of my head. So here we go. And I'm just going to explain these things briefly. I don't know how long this is going to take, but let's see how this goes. This slide right here is from back in 2007. This was, oh man, I'm going to have to lengthen these. So that was back in 2007. That was when I was only lifting. I really didn't do cardio of any kind. I would ride my bike occasionally. And I was still kind of on a keto type diet, but I was adding a little carbohydrates in. This is 2008. You can see I'm a pretty big dude. But the keto diet is really failing me, even though I was being more and more stringent with it. I tried to find images of myself, but I mean, back in the day, you didn't have a camera on you at all times. You know, this was back before the smartphone. This was back in the flip phone days. So I really didn't have a lot of images of me. I can't find any from prior to this when I had lost a ton of weight. Next image is actually an image that I took of myself at my studio. It was a huge studio. I think I actually put more stuff into this in the final edit, but this was the first edit of this image, just so you can get an idea. This was 2009 and what my size was. And this next image, okay, so this is the abrupt timeline that I was telling you about. This was back in 2010. This is when I was either at or very close to 405 pounds. Not great. The only shirt that I could really find that would fit was this brown shirt, even though I was living in Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles territory, so people would look at me crazy, even though there was actually a pocket of Browns fans there. So they found me, I found them. This was when I was living in Philly. Most of this is actually with me living in Philly. Okay, so the next one that we're going to come up to is, let us see. This is actually the start. So I had just started at Western and Southern. not Western Southern. What's the name of that? Wells Fargo. And I was making a lot of money. So I went out and bought a juicer. I went and bought a Vitamix. I went and bought a dehydrator. I went out and bought all this kind of stuff. You could see how big the gut is. You couldn't even fit me in the gut in the frame here. This was the start of the journey. I was probably not 405 at this point, because when I first went vegan, I really wasn't juicing or anything. I just stopped doing meat. I lost some weight. Then the next month I stopped dairy and I lost a ton of weight. I don't have any other images of me at 405. There is another image in circulation, but I have no idea where it's at. I could not find it. And then here is me. There was, I think his name is Scott John or John Scott or something like that. He's a trainer, and he was advocating for this 500 kettlebell swings in a day, and this is what I was doing. You can actually see, if you look at my left foot on the lower right side, you can see just how destroyed this foot of mine is, and what I've been dealing with for these years. Now I kind of have an arch, but it's not. And then here's just me flexing. I just thought this was a funny image. This is me afterwards, because any kind of activity like this, I would kind of be exhausted afterwards. This is, I don't know if this is actually before the kettlebell or after the kettlebell, but the only reason I put this in there is my gut is still enormous, but you can actually see kind of the crease at the end of the gut. Like, it's not like taking over the entire image anymore. And then this is actually my birthday in 2012, I believe. I had lost a bunch of weight. This is at a place called Arnold's Way. Every food item that he has there is raw. Like, this was a raw salad. It is dehydrated. Some kind of crackers on. It is high fat. But this was for my birthday, and I figured, why not? I had just gotten a ton of bad news, and I was trying not to have a terrible birthday. And let's see what's next here. This one, some of these I don't know where in the timeline they fit. I pulled all these off somebody's Facebook, and the timeline seems a little bit off to me, but it might not be. I don't know. Oh, actually, I pulled some of this off emails that she had sent me too. So this was with me with my cat. This is that same brown shirt, so it's not spray painted to me anymore. So I had definitely lost a bunch of weight at that point. And then coming up to this next image here, I was yet again at that. There was this kitchen in this house, this rental was huge. But it had this little thing to the left of me. It was the only counter space that there was in this entire kitchen. So we ended up using a stove to make juices and smoothies and stuff like that. This, actually, I can tell from what this image is. I was doing the Lou Corona type thing. I was buying his probiotics, and I was making yogurt with coconut. Again, high fat. So you can see the weight really, it's coming off, but it's slower than I would like at that point. And then let's see what the next image is here. This image is actually, I believe, the start of when I started riding my bike. I was still lifting a bit. I was riding bike. We were at another raw food restaurant that used to be amazing. I can't even remember the name of it, but the owner of it just was permanently mad after a certain point. He wouldn't even bring your food to you anymore. You had to go get it. And then he made you clear your own table and clean it. And so that was the last time we ever went there, because I don't know what happened to him, but he was just permanently mad. Maybe he ate too much fat. I don't know. Carbohydrates. He did serve a lot of fatty stuff. This was after the bike riding had been done, I think, for a few months, but you can see the weight is starting to really come off. And at this point, I decided that I wasn't going to do any fat other than for like Christmas or Thanksgiving or something like that, for like one meal. That was it. And what is next? This is, you can see how fairly large my legs are, and this is definitely me full force into not lifting anymore and riding bike. I wish the image was a little bit better. It was just because it was only taken actually because my cat was attacking my foot. So that's really the only reason this image even exists. You can see that she would lick and then attack my foot. It was a weird obsession. She doesn't do it anymore. This is me with my cat. Most of the images I even have is because I let them be taken because I had my cat with me, and I wanted to keep memories of her. This was when she was at her chubbiest. She was 14 or 15 pounds here, and you could she's terrified. We were at the vet because she was having a lot of coughing fits. But you can see how much weight has just, you can see it everywhere in my face. And then I think this next one is actually probably the one that shows my progress the best, and it's going to be, yeah, this one's going to be in the thumbnail along with the 405 obese self of mine, and again the fluff balls in the image. You can't really see my gut. I've never fully lost my gut, but I wasn't far off from it. You can see how slender my upper torso is. My legs are still enormous. You can see they're taking up the entire chair. And I was happy at this point. My happiness was pretty heavy. This is when I moved back to Cleveland, and you can see how fast it happens. The blessing of being back in Cleveland is I'm by the lake. The curse of living in Cleveland is I did not realize how big the vegan scene was here. Every restaurant you go to has vegan menu. Not every, but a lot of the ones that have vegan menu, and it's all fat. It's all hamburgers. It's kind of fatty. It happened quick. And this is also shortly after I was constantly driving 90 miles each way to the one post office. I was just getting whatever I could, and I know fruit's the original fast food, but finding it ripe is terrible sometimes. So, and there's a bunch of vegan bakeries around here, so you can see how quickly that I went from looking pretty good to not good. So I don't know what the next image I think is from the exact same day, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So you can see the gut shelf here. I mean, it's just the upper body kind of stayed slender, but the gut just started getting like the inflammation and the fat and all that kind of stuff. It just looks terrible. It's absolutely terrible. You can see this is I don't know when in the time frame this is, but this is after we moved here, and you can see I'm just a big dude. I'm gonna actually talk about that after I come back on camera. That the problems that has actually caused me in this whole journey. This is just another one. I lost a little bit of weight here because I kind of realized just how far gone it was getting, and then the same damn shirt. I always I never change. I just don't care about clothes. So this was Christmas Day. Somebody had got me a Cleveland Browns beanie cap, and I was trying it on. You can see how big my legs are, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I really got to eat soon. So, and then this is actually, once again, here we go with this roller coaster. I realized that things were not where they needed to be, so I started walking again as much as I could. This was prior to the surgery. I think all but one of actually the last one, which is the next one, is after surgery. So walking and even riding at this point was really getting to be a struggle. And here is the last. This was last year after I could kind of walk. Me having all that stuff, I had gloves and everything in the pocket, so it makes it look even worse than it really is. The gut is ever present, and that is going to be the last of them. So I'm going to start talking about where I am now. I don't think I'm as fat as I am even in this last one because I have lost some weight. The problem that I have run into, and I said I was going to talk about some of the issues that I have. The problem that I have run into is I don't have a harder time getting around when I'm fat than when I am not fat. I don't notice any real significant difference between walking up, say, a flight of stairs or walking any distance or something like that, other than my foot. Now, my foot is got somewhat of an arch now, and it's got, you know, a 3D printed talus in it. So I've got a titanium ankle, basically. So once everything in the body gets a little more flexible, walking and stuff like that is not going to be that big of a deal. So anyway, what I'm saying is my legs are huge. I used to squat a ton of weight. I used to deadlift a ton of weight. The muscle, the musculature hasn't really lost. I haven't lost much of it. So it's not hard for me to walk around when I'm 400 pounds or 200 pounds. It's not, I don't notice that much of a difference, especially because you're not going to have a 200-pound swing in a day. So the problem that I have run into, and the problem with my situation is no matter how big I've gotten, I haven't had a hard time walking around, so I don't notice it. And I don't really like taking images of myself because I really don't like looking at images of other people. Like, this is all that's on Instagram. I'd rather see, like people who are going hiking. I'd rather see the scenery. I mean, it's usually people showing their butts off or something like that, and they're like in the way of the scenery. I'm not, it's just not my thing. So, and I'm a photographer by, I did go to school for it, but I was a photographer way before that. And I'm used to being behind a camera. So I don't really take a ton of images with myself. And so this is the problem. So maybe I need to start taking images of myself and just like really being honest with myself. And I think a lot of people might be in a situation where you don't really notice it. I keep hearing, I'll read these stories about, I couldn't get up a flight of stairs without, breathing hard. It's not me. I have not had that problem. I can climb 10 flights of stairs at the weight that I'm at, or at the weight of 400. Even at 400 pounds, I did not notice a huge difference in my mobility. I have it. I couldn't find it again, unfortunately, so it's not in this timeline. I have images of me doing yoga at like 300 some pounds. So the biggest problem, and not problem at the same time, that I've had is I don't notice when the weight is getting really bad. My clothes and that's another thing, I don't really like buying new clothes. So my clothes are already stretched out to the point where I was at. Now, I mean, most of the clothes I have now were not from 405 pounds because that set of clothes got stretched to the point where those were rags. By the time I was back down to, it's well, a couple of these are just rags now or just thrown out, especially that Browns one. That thing got destroyed. That was such a sweet shirt too, unfortunately. But so the problem is that I've run into is I don't know that I'm gaining weight because the clothes that I wear, and I have a big frame. So the clothes that I wear fit me pretty similar no matter what weight I'm at. I don't notice walking wise or carrying it because I've got the musculature to carry it. And when I'm stressed and stuff like that, I just don't care anymore. Like I just want to fork down the cakes and stuff like that. So you can see what I've gone through over the years. Now, when I was losing weight in the images, I should have mentioned this when I had it on the slideshow. The really good two, the one where I'm in the hoodie holding my cat, and the other one when I'm at the table holding my cat. Cat's almost in all my images. I was not eating any fat at all. No overt fat. I was only eating, I was straight up durian style. I hadn't even heard of Starch Solution at that point. So I was straight up, I would allow myself 2 cookies, because we would go do a huge shopping, because where we lived, it took forever to get to Whole Foods and stuff like that. And that was actually a blessing. So we would do one shopping a week. We would go to Aussie and get a bunch of fruit. We would go to Trader Joe's and get a bunch of stuff. And then we would go to Whole Foods and get a bunch of stuff. And that would be for the week. And I would allow myself 2 cookies. And even after eating them, I could feel myself getting bloated and inflammation and kind of stuff. So I don't know why I kept doing it to myself. And then at one point, I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? So I started buying Whole Foods version of Frosted Flakes. And I would just like snack a nut on the way home, because it was like an hour ride back home. So I would just start doing that, and the weight, I mean, weight was just like catapulting. It's like, like flying off. But the only time, and I have mentioned this in the video with me with the helicopter pad in the thumbnail, I don't lose weight unless I'm doing some form of cardio. I don't care how strict my diet is. I will lose some. But when I add the cardio in, and now keep in mind, I was living in eastern Pennsylvania, and the hills are everywhere. So you are forced to ride hills. There's no choice. If you're going to ride a bike, you're going to ride on hills. It's the only option you have, unless you're going to ride on a trainer, or if you go into one of the valleys and you're not going to leave the valley. Now, there is one ride that I would do. It was over in Ole Valley. If you're in eastern Pennsylvania, you might have heard of it. Ole Valley, you can get away with riding pretty flat, or if you go down to the city. But city riding is fine, but with the amount of lights that you hit, it's just like, it's so tedious. So I didn't do a ton of riding. I would ride from where I was in Perk all the way down the Perk Yeoman Trail, all the way down to whatever the one that catches Philly. And that was like a 70-mile round trip. I would do that, like if I had nothing to do on a Sunday or something like that, I would do that ride. And I wasn't riding every day because I did have a crazy schedule still at work. I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had to be there by 5. And I would work till whenever, because at that point I was a PTF, and some days I would be out by like noon, and then other days I would work 5 to 5. So, but I would have a 2-hour lunch when I worked at 5 to 5, and I would go ride for like an hour and a half of it, and then just kind of fork something, or not, drink something down, like a banana smoothie or something like that when I got back. And then I would just sit there and try to cool off before my shift started again. And I would get changed back in I would bring clothes. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ride because those are some serious hills over there where I rode. Man, I think that one was like 28% gradient. I mean, you were working it to get up that hill. I was one of only a few people, because there was somebody at the top of this hill, and they had a little chart of who actually made it up. I was one of very few people. I did have to snake up it, what's it called, switchback up it, because there was no traffic on this road. I mean, none. Actually, this part of the road that I'm thinking, it was called Fancy Hill. If you're in Pennsylvania, go ride it. And then there's Reservoir Hill, but Fancy Hill is way worse. Especially at the top. The top, they were trying to repave it, and they were actually having a problem with the paver like sliding down, so they had to put a chuck behind. They had to do these crazy things just to pave this road. And then there was another cutoff off the road that was so steep that they couldn't even pave it, so it was just gravel. And I rode to the top of that too, which kind of sucked. At the point, I didn't have 30 mil tires on that bike. I had like 30, and it was like a really big gravel, so that was not great. So I actually only did that once. I rode up Fancy Hill quite a few times, but riding to the top, I only did once, because man, I mean, I almost got off and just walked it, because that was some seriously like dense gravel. I mean, it was almost like crushed boulder. It was, I don't know how they didn't have flat tires on that thing all the time, because there were sharp pieces, and it just wasn't worth riding. So anyway, the one that you see of myself, and the one that's going to be, I'm going to put the real fat one and the real like one with me holding the cat at the dining room table, on as a thumbnail, just know that I can only, and I don't know, maybe we'll see if this changes because I'm not doing any fat now at all. When I was lifting, I should have mentioned this, almost every one of the ones up to me riding bike, I was lifting weights. And then when I came back here, I started lifting weights again too, because you get told to go die, or they hope you die, or some kind of like crazy thing like that out of the windows when you ride around here. Now, I did discover a year after, because I'm an east sider, but I'm living on the west side now. I did discover, and you can ride on the east side pretty easily without anybody giving you a hard time. But I did discover if you ride up towards the lake and stuff like that, nobody cares, because there's a ton of riders up there. So once I discovered that, most of 2017 I didn't ride because I just kept getting yelled at, stuff thrown at me. People wouldn't move over, so I was like almost getting hit by car mirrors and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, this is not worth it. So I went back to the gym. I started lifting again. And of course, whenever I lift, I crave fat like crazy. I mean, it's just, I crave it. And that's when I started going to these restaurants with these burgers and stuff like that. It's just a downward spiral. So anyway, I'm back to, and I have been back to, no fat at all in the diet. Even when she bakes cookies and stuff like that, if once the holiday season gets into full swing and she's baking like crazy, I'm gonna have to find a recipe or a few, which I'm gonna post on here, that are just straight up no fat cookies. I gotta find it. This is the longest video I've ever made, I think, on here. I hope this is beneficial to people. I could keep going on about it. I think I'm just going to cut it here, and then there hopefully will be questions, and I can kind of make a video from that. Just know that if you're on a roller coaster, you're not the only one. The only way to get out of this roller coaster is to drop the fat. Every time I have added fat back into my diet, you see what happens. I just balloon back up, and I don't realize it's happening until it's like way into it, and then I'm like, oh, man, and then I got to come back down. So the only way that you're going to get out of this is either the durianrider protocol, which is kind of an adopted 80-10-10 or rice diet. So he kind of combined those. I am going to do a video about the rice diet, not the rice diet, the 80-10-10. I finally found the book. And actually, that's how I got started, is 80-10-10. So I'm going to actually make a video about that. I got to eat. I just only had a couple apples today. I forgot to make my porridge, and I really didn't have anything else cooking. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get this uploaded, and I'm going to make probably a video about the 80-10-10 diet and how I got started. And that's actually how I started losing the weight originally. Then I actually added a couch to 5K to that, and that's when the weight really started rolling off. And then I fell into the fat trap again. And then I started riding bike. So the only times that I've really lost weight, like at an incredible rate, is having some kind of cardiovascular activity combined with it. So keep that in mind. Please subscribe. I'm going to keep posting. This is just what I'm doing now. I'm going to keep posting. Hopefully I've got enough time to make the 80-10-10. I do have a bunch of stuff I got to do outside of the house today. So hopefully I have enough time. And subscribe, leave a comment. I know a bunch of us have gone through this. I'm hoping this thumbnail brings a lot of people in here, and we can all kind of just go from here. Because the more of us involved, probably the better off we'll be. And leave a comment, subscribe, like, dislike, and I'll talk to you next time.